I'm Evelyn Fielding Lopez, the Executive Director of the Public Disclosure Commission. The public's right to know about the financing of political campaigns and lobbying and the financial affairs of elected officials and candidates far outweighs any right that these matters remain secret and private. So declares Washington's Public Disclosure Act, and aptly summarizes both the impetus for and the purpose of the statute. The origin of Washington's disclosure law can be traced to the efforts of concerned citizens who came together in 1970 believing that the public had the right to know about the financing of political activity in this state. The coalition gathered nearly 163,000 signatures in record-breaking time in order to place Initiative 276 on the November 1972 general election ballot. It became law on January 1, 1973, after being approved by 72% of the voters. It was the voters of Washington State who created the Public Disclosure Commission, the first time a state agency was created without a constitutional mandate or the legislature's action. In 1992, voters again passed a comprehensive campaign finance ballot measure, Initiative 134, that imposed changes on the manner in which campaigns are conducted in Washington State. Again, over 72% of the voters supported reform. This initiative focused on contribution limits and other campaign restrictions. The public disclosure law relies both on the antiseptic qualities of sunshine and several prohibitions to assure the citizens of Washington that candidates, public officials, and government in general operates openly and honestly. Washington's public disclosure law allows citizens an in-depth look at who is financing a campaign or who has hired legislative lobbyists before deciding which candidates, ballot proposals, or pending legislation deserve their support. The Public Disclosure Commission and its staff work to ensure compliance by those subject to the law. Persons subject to the law usually find themselves being monitored by concerned citizens, special interest groups, and the news media as well. A 5-member bipartisan citizen commission, whose members are appointed to 5-year terms by the governor and confirmed by the Senate, ensure that provisions of the disclosure law are fully met. Recognizing that the members would be serving in highly visible and sensitive positions, Initiative 276 puts additional constraints on the commissioners, including prohibitions against holding or campaigning for elective office, being an officer of any political party or political committee, supporting or opposing any candidate or ballot proposition, participating in any way in any election campaign inside or outside of Washington State, and lobbying, employing, or assisting a lobbyist, except on commission matters. The commission members wear many hats. They are the board of directors of the agency. They set overall policy, adopt administrative rules, and interpret the law. The members hear and decide reporting modifications requested by those who believe they should be exempt from a portion of the law. In their most visible role, the commissioners judge enforcement cases brought before them for hearing and possible imposition of a penalty. Commissioners are not full-time state employees. They meet, usually in Olympia, on the 4th Thursday of every month, except during November and December, when a meeting is scheduled in early December. The public is invited and encouraged to attend these meetings. Time is always reserved for public comment. The public disclosure law contains 5 main areas of jurisdiction. First, campaign finance disclosure requirements. Candidates running for a state or county-wide office, as well as candidates for most local offices, must register and report their campaign transactions. In addition, the campaign disclosure provisions apply to political parties and other political committees, including clubs, neighborhood groups, and others who raise and spend funds to influence candidate elections and ballot propositions. For example, those who raise or spend more than $5,000 must file frequent reports showing the names, addresses, occupations, and employers of their contributors, the total amount donated, and how the funds were spent. Second, contribution limits. Most contributors, including individuals, political action committees, unions, and businesses, are limited to an amount they may give a statewide executive office candidate. These limits were part of the reforms voters enacted when I-134 was approved. Since then, the legislature has amended the law to extend contribution limits to candidates for judicial office, county office, mayor, and city council, as well as some special purpose districts such as ports, schools, and hospital districts. The PDC has authority to adjust contribution limits for inflation every other year. The current limits and which candidates are subject to limits are explained on our website. Third, personal financial affairs of candidates and elected officers. Anyone holding or seeking a state or county-wide elected office or holding a high-level state-appointed position is required to file a statement disclosing their personal financial affairs. Most local elected officials and candidates must also disclose personal financial information. The information reported includes sources of income and gifts, real estate holdings, investments, creditors, businesses owned, and the major customers of those businesses. Fourth, political advertising. The political advertising provisions of the law apply to all candidates and ballot measures. Anyone, including individuals, corporations, unions, and other organizations, paying for ads that solicit votes, funds, or other support for state or local candidates, ballot measures, or political committees, usually must, as part of the ad, clearly identify themselves as the sponsor of the advertisement. If these ads are presented independently of a campaign, additional information regarding the sponsor must be published or broadcast as part of the ad. Some advertising items are exempt from this identification requirement, such as yard signs, bumper stickers, and campaign buttons. However, all radio and TV ads and the vast majority of written ads, including newspaper ads, flyers, brochures, and the like, must comply with the identification requirement. And all political ads relating to candidates for partisan office must identify the candidate's party preference. And fifth, disclosure rules related to lobbying activities. Anyone receiving compensation or making expenditures for the purpose of attempting to influence the passage or defeat of any legislation or rule by the state legislature or a state agency is required to register as a lobbyist. Once registered, a lobbyist files detailed monthly reports disclosing their employer, the amount of compensation, the identities of those entertained, provided gifts, and contributed to, including the dollar amounts involved. Lobbyist employers file a similar report annually. The Public Disclosure Commission was not designed simply to serve as a repository for data. Its mission is based on the principle that information about the financing of campaigns and lobbying and the financial affairs of public officials and candidates should be made readily available to the public. The Public Disclosure Commission provides detailed information about these areas of jurisdiction, including specific reports from lobbyists, political action committees, candidates, and individuals contributing to candidate and initiative campaigns. A link to the Commission's website follows this presentation, and you may contact Commission staff who can assist you directly in obtaining information you request. Additionally, the Washington Coalition for Open Government is available to respond to your questions and to offer assistance in gaining access to Commission information. Just call or submit an email.